that much energy.
No, you don't.
Yeah, you're probably right. Because you probably never feel like you're done.
Yeah.
Right? Always got to do something.
It's like a shark. You can't stand still.
Right.
Yeah.
My grandfather was like that. Always had to be doing something.
Right. Oh, get ready.
Yeah. Just remember, stay close to that mic.
All right.
There you go.
That mic, not this mic.
Yeah, the MIC, not the MIKE.
Oh, there you go. Got too many mics around.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll hide behind it this time so they won't know who I am.
There you go. Okay. There.
Oh, Christ.
Okay, folks. Are we ready?
Yeah, I believe so.
All right. Oh, shit. I meant to do something else. This.
Oh, I'm going to go through and cut out the duplicates.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
You're listening to Addressing Gettysburg.
What does it always make you laugh, Charlie?
I don't know.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Addressing Gettysburg. This is Ask a Gettysburg Guide, and today we are talking with our buddy Charlie Fennell about Willard's Brigade versus Barksdale's Brigade. The fighting on July 2nd between those two lovely brigades. Charlie, how are you today?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Good. It seems like only 20 minutes ago we did another show with you.
Yeah.
You know? It's funny how time flies.
Yeah, it really does.
The joke is, folks, that we did. We're recording 2 shows in one day. Anyway, let's talk about Willard's Brigade and Barksdale's Brigade. Willard, well, let's start with Barksdale, since he's the attacking brigade here.
Okay.
What is going on with Barksdale, and how does he end up meeting Willard's Brigade?
Well, of course, Barksdale commands a fairly veteran brigade when it comes here. They all have tremendous experience in fighting. They've been in it since the beginning. First Manassas or Bull Run, depending on your political affiliation.
Right.
So they have that experience behind them. Barksdale's a fairly combative fellow. He doesn't have previous military experience, but he's a good commander. He leads from the front.
Mm-hmm.
He's where the metal meets the meat. He's an inspiration to his men. Fairly big guy. He's 240 pounds, no neck. Type of guy. When everybody else 135
Right.
pounds. So
he manages to stay
he
fat.
stands out in that respect. Now he's assigned to the 1st Corps. He's in McLaw's division. And, of course, on July 2nd, they're supposed to swing around, get across the Union flank, and drive it in. So that's how he comes to be in position where he is. He's right behind the Mississippi Monument. One of the reasons they put the Mississippi State Memorial where it is because that's where Barksdale's brigade formed. They're about 1619. I think it's 1619. I remember that date. It's the most important date in American history.
Yes.
So I can remember 1619.
Yes.
Engaged.
Right.
By Barksdale. He had over 1,700, but 1619 here. And they're lined up along the roadway there, which wasn't there. That road wasn't there before.
The Park Road you're talking about.
Yeah, Park
Confederate
Road,
Avenue.
Yeah, we're the South or West Confederate, I guess. There we have to park on the road, not on the side of the road. But anyway, so that's where he's lined up. So that's how he comes to get into position there, and he's in the front line of McLaw's division.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when they finally come up, there's eight brigades in the 2 divisions under Longstreet, Hood, and McLaw's. It's interesting to note that all the Georgia brigades, all 4 of them, are in the 2nd line. And the other brigades, Alabama, the Texas, the South Carolina, and the Mississippi Brigade, are in the front. And I think that's just coincidence. There's no diabolical plot since McLaw's is from Georgia.
Right.
So it's one of the coincidences of the battle.
So he's on the far left of the assault. Is that right?
Yes.
And he's in the front line, like you said. And who's behind him?
Be Wofford.
Wofford. That's right. Okay. So I guess go into a little bit of what the whole plan is, because he's like kind of towards the end phases of this assault.
Yes.
So what is preceding him going in?
Well, preceding him going in is the attack on the far right with Hood's division. basically, when they come up, they're somewhat shocked to find Yankees on the Emmitsburg Road and in the peach orchard. And that's due to Sickles' decision that ground was better than the ground he had. Whether it was or not, he occupied it. And so this caused Longstreet to alter the plan and move Hood further south on the end of McLaws. And the attack was designed to go up the Emmitsburg Road, but Sickles is in the way.
Isn't he always?
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, the Alabama Brigade, when they attacked, they went for Little Round Top, or essentially in that direction, 90 degrees off line, because they could see the flank of Sickles' line was in the rocks of Devil's Den.
Okay.
So if you want to get around them, you go to the right of Devil's Den, which puts you in the Valley of Death and Slaughter Pen, and the right flank has to climb Big Round Top.
Yeah.
Fun for those.
Fun day for them.
Yeah. So, and Longstreet developed the attack in echelon. Now, this was talked about a lot.
Now, wait, what does an echelon mean
From
for
one
the
end to
newbies?
the other.
Okay.
It's like going up the rungs of a ladder. You do one at a time. One hand, next hand, next hand. And the advantage of that is it forces the enemy to react to it, and eventually there's a hole in the line somewhere.
So, in other words, instead of both divisions going in at once
Right.
and causing the Union line to stay where it is,
Yes.
you attack the flank first, hoping that the Union will remove troops from another part of the line that you're going to attack later, weaken that to strengthen where you're attacking.
Exactly.
But the Union, so the Union commanders know this tactic.
Sure.
They can recognize it when they see it, right?
Yes.
So would they be less apt to fall for it?
That depends on how successful it is. As it turned out, it became fairly successful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead.
It took Longstreet nearly 2 hours to get all 8 brigades involved.
Mm-hmm.
The stipulation I always think about is that if all of them went in together, we wouldn't have this discussion about whether Sickles' line was better or not.
Right.
They'd have blown them out of there pretty much in a hurry, I think. But be that as it may, that's all speculation. So let's get back to what they were doing.
Of course.
You attack 2 brigades, and you wait a few minutes, 15, 20, so going on. And all the time, Barksdale standing there, like a caged lion.
Chomping at the bit.
He's going back and forth. What's going on? He costs my claws. I can go in. I can get those guns on the Emmitsburg. We have to wait. Longstreet comes by. He grabs the reins of his horse and says, "Look, I can take those guns out in a hurry." And Longstreet says, "That's all right. Just be patient. We're all going in a few minutes." But Longstreet then suggests maybe you want to go out and take those fences down in front of you.
Forget about the guns.
Give
Take
them
out the
something to
fences.
do.
Yeah.
I think in a way, and so they do that. So there's some confusion in the Confederates about this attack. Now, if this was the original plan, you would assume that the people executing it would have some idea of it. But when you read the reports, just about every brigade, or the left regiment on every brigade of the Confederates, was talking about, why aren't they advancing to support my flank?
Mm-hmm.
Which in an echelon attack, you would know that your flank's going to be vulnerable for
Right.
a time until the next wave goes in. So just in speculation on my part, I believe the original plan was to line them up on the Wheatfield Road. McLaws and
Initially,
Hood.
yeah.
And they were to attack together, and the echelon then would be Anderson's division.
Right.
As the attack moved north towards Cemetery Hill, the brigades then would come out in echelon to support that attack.
So basically, what you're saying is that the original idea of the attack would have had them facing basically north.
Yes, perpendicular to the Emmitsburg Road.
Right. And but that's not what happened, and so this is the adjustments that had to be made based on Sickles being up
Yeah,
there.
Sickles is an equal opportunity screwer up.
Yes,
He just screwed everybody.
he screwed everybody up. Yeah,
That's right. Yeah, except maybe for himself. in a
Right.
sense. But anyway.
Well, he lost a leg.
Yeah, but that's the assumption, because Anderson does go in echelon as we'll see. So
Okay.
that's what Barksdale's doing. He wants to get after him.
So Barksdale finally gets his chance to go in,
Yes.
and he goes in. What do they go through before they meet Willard?
Well, they go through quite a bit.
Yeah.
There's artillery fire from the Emmitsburg Road. There's skirmishers. Then they have to get through the Sherfy Farm, brick house. There, Union troops have gone in the house, are using the building as a fortress, firing from the second-story windows. There's so that they have to get through. I guess Barksdale's hit as they approach the buildings. He's hitting the thigh. Once they clear the yard, he's hitting the ankle. You know?
That's got a smart.
Yeah, they said it almost took his foot off, but you know, and he keeps in the saddle, probably because now he can't walk.
Can't get off.
Can't get off the thing. But his brigade is going to be the one that really breaks Sickles' line irreparably.
Right.
You know, you could support Sickles where he is as long as the Peach Orchard and the Emmitsburg Road line is held. When Barksdale crashes through, that's not a possibility.
Who's he facing at the Sherfy farm?
Well, he's facing elements of Graham's brigade.
Right.
Graham's brigade, there's the 114th Pennsylvania, 57th Pennsylvania, Wildcats, 105th Pennsylvania. You know, they're all standing there, usually in the road, and then they were ordered to advance to help Buckland's battery to get out as these crazy Mississippians come roaring across the field. There was a little pamphlet put out after the war, the finest charge ever, and it was written about Barksdale's attack.
Who wrote it?
One of the Southerners, I believe, men in Barksdale's brigade. It might be Humphreys.
Okay.
There, who actually took command of the brigade after Barksdale.
Right. Colonel Humphreys, not General
no,
Humphreys.
Not General.
In the Union Army.
Yes. Yeah, they should have different names, but they don't.
Yeah, they should have thought of that.
Of the 21st Mississippi. Yeah, and he's the senior colonel of the brigade. So, yeah, that's where they break through. And I always tell people that Lee's planned attack up the Emmitsburg Road begins with Barksdale. Because when his 3 regiments that are with him, 21st being somewhat detached at this point, they're going to wheel and move to the northeast.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So, in other words, Barksdale's the one that actually does what Lee intended originally.
Initially.
Yeah.
You're 2 hours into the attack.
Right. Yeah. Better late than never. That's what I always say.
True enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so then they get past the Sherfy farm. They cross the Emmitsburg Road.
Correct.
And then what?
Well, they roll up the flank of Humphreys division. This is A.A. Humphreys.
Right.
General Humphreys, Yankee boy, you know. And they roll him up, and of course they're taking, fire from artillery on Cemetery Ridge at this point. Okay, the 21st Mississippi will detach and follow the retreating artillery from Sickles' line along the Wheatfield Road.
Okay.
At the high point of that, from the Peach Orchard down to Bigelow's battery, is 30 guns lined up there firing essentially southwest. Okay, so once the Peach Orchard is taken by the Confederates, the guns got to get out because they're inflated.
Right.
And so they're going to roll down through the farmyard. 21st is going to follow Bigelow's guns into the Trossel farm where they're going to overrun his battery.
Okay.
Okay.
Because Bigelow is originally on the Wheatfield Road, right?
Bigelow's on the Wheatfield Road, correct.
Right. So then he starts retreating by Prolong.
That's correct. There's no time to bring the horses up.
Right. The horses, I guess, are back at the Trossel farm?
They would probably be on their way there.
On their way there, okay.
Yeah, they would probably be a little closer, I think, during the cannonade.
Yeah.
Although, given the situation there with the open fields and, fire essentially coming from almost 2 different directions, but you want them accessible. I mean, the other batteries got their horses up and got out.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
So then they get to the brigade gets to around the Trossel farm.
Yes.
Are they unopposed at this point, or are they just kind of on the heels of retreating Yankees?
Yeah, they're pushing back the Flotsam and Jefferson of the 3rd Corps.
Right.
Yeah, and other groups of Union troops that have come to support them. And they're headed now, the 3 with Barksdale are essentially north of the Trossel farm.
Okay.
And they're moving towards what we call Plum Run. They're the thicket, Codori Thicket.
The thicket.
And they're moving to that. And of course, they're still driving Union troops back. It's not until Willard comes up that they're going to meet serious opposition at that point, or at least a solid line of Union troops that are facing them and advancing towards them.
So the Codori Thicket,
Yes.
I'm assuming then it's part of the Codori property.
It starts there.
It starts there.
Yes.
So it's like the edge of the property.
Yeah, it's
roughly.
I don't know if it comes from it's a runoff from the farm lanes there, and there's a number of underground springs that contribute to it. It's a low ground there by the Codori farm, and then it goes to the thicket. It goes to Plum Run in the Valley of Death.
Right.
It's the same.
Yeah. If you're here and you go to the Pennsylvania Monument,
Right.
look out to the west.
Correct.
And that thicket that you're talking about is the first little line of short trees and saplings and brush and stuff like
That's
that
right.
you'll see.
Yes.
Not too far. And there's usually a mowed path that takes you out to it.
Well, yes.
Is it there? Are they still mowing it? It is there, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mike said it was.
Good, yeah.
I asked him earlier.
Did you?
Yeah.
So you can go out.
You can access the thicket.
Right. All right. So Barksdale gets to the thicket.
Yes.
Okay. Is Willard already there?
He's standing on Cemetery Ridge.
Okay. So now let's go over to Willard.
Yes.
So while all this stuff is going on down on the south end of the field,
Yes.
Barksdale is wreaking havoc and making his way to the thicket.
Mm-hmm.
Willard is still up by the Bryan Farm, that area.
Yes, he's near Ziegler's Grove.
Ziegler's Grove.
It was
Okay.
in there. By the time the attack, one account seems to suggest that the 126th, I guess New York, was along the stone wall by the Bryan Farm. The rest of the regiments were in column behind it.
Right. Okay.
Okay, and Willard left them in that formation so that they could easily be moved. It's not a formation you attack from or defend with, but it's one that prevents or that allows flexibility of movement.
Okay.
So when they leave, when they get the word to go, they actually move not in a line, but they all move together. Mm-hmm. And Willard did this to save time.
Right. So you're saying instead of getting them in column,
Right.
they all just turn and go.
They all turn and go.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So you got 4 regiments roughly marching parallel with one another, headed south, just behind the main Union line.
Okay.
So just behind Cemetery Ridge.
So he gets down to the area just a little north of the George Weichert house,
Yes.
where Malbone Watson's battery is today.
A little bit north of there.
A little north of there.
Probably out near where Father Corby is.
Okay.
And the Auxiliary Monument to New York State Memorial there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so is he waiting? Is he watching Barksdale coming, or
I
they
can't see him at that point.
can't see him at that
Smoke.
point? Smoke.
Confusion. Starting to get dark. It's near 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Until he's moved. That's 8 o'clock our time.
Right. That's getting
Screw with
dark.
the clocks.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. We do. We love it.
Yeah. We love screwing with everything.
Yeah, we only know 2 days at what time it is. But that's when you fall back and it's spring forward.
That's right.
The only 2 days
That's right. See, right. Exactly. You don't want to be late for work or
That was
early
Woodrow
for work.
Wilson, by the way.
Yeah. Thanks, Woodrow.
Yeah.
Thanks, Woody.
He did a lot of things
That screwed
to
us.
screw us up.
Yeah.
Oh, no, come on, no.
What? What else?
WW.
What didn't he do?
Oh, he did all kinds.
Everything he did ruined us.
Well, part of it, getting back to the peace light, one of the reasons they couldn't get money for a peace light in 1913 or earlier because things are getting crazy in Europe.
Right.
And so I remember reading a correspondence in 1913 after the reunion in which they said, due to the uncertainties in Europe, we only can appropriate money for what we believe is absolutely necessary, which means a peace light memorial at Gettysburg is not necessary.
Yes. Right. Screw the peace.
It's like chrome on your car. It's not necessary.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
All right. Well, so okay. So he doesn't see. When does he start to realize that there's someone right in his front? That
when
Barksdale's
all
there?
these guys start running through his lines.
So
Third
the
Corps guys.
retreating Third Corps guys.
Yeah, a lot of them are from Birney's division,
Right.
coming out of the peach orchard.
Okay.
So then he starts to deploy. The 126th, I believe, is on the right. The 125th in front to the left. The 111th is in kind of 200 and some yards behind the right.
Mm-hmm.
The 39th continues on and will form in the rear of the left of the brigade. So he has two lines. I should also point out that when they moved, he ordered his men to fix bayonets.
Okay.
So they're marching with fixed bayonets,
So they know that something's going to happen.
which is a detriment, if you get into a firefight.
Right, because it throws off your aim.
Well, not only that, it's hard to load.
Oh yeah.
Keep impaling your hand
Oh,
on the bayonet.
yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But, it's in the way. It's in the way. It's,
Sure.
it's
Yeah.
tough to
Yeah. It
load.
makes it harder to load.
Yeah, so it takes longer to load the gun.
Okay.
And that initially that seemed like a bad idea, but then he ordered his men to advance. They already had the bayonets fixed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what did you say? 125th on the left, 126th on the right?
Is that correct?
That's correct, if
Yeah.
that's what you said.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, then
Yeah.
that is correct. And then the 39th New York, you said, is continuing on. Where are they going?
They're going to near the George Weichert farm
For what?
for flank support. Remember, the Confederates are already pushed beyond.
Yeah.
There, Walford's brigade is now taking on the Pennsylvania reserves.
Okay.
And they're being pushed back eventually by the reserves, right?
Right, there you go.
There he
Eric.
is.
There you go.
We finally got.
Somebody say something about the reserve.
Yeah, you knew I was going to.
Oh, hi. Didn't see you there.
Yeah. So you got concerns for your left flank because there's nothing beyond you,
Right, right.
really, at that point. So that's where they go.
It's funny how Eric lights up when the reserves come up.
Yeah, we got to throw that in every show.
I know. Just mention the reserves. And
Oh,
he
I
gets
was
all
going
excited.
to later.
I know you were.
There's a question that I can get there.
Okay,
There you go.
good.
Oh, yeah.
Good. He's planning.
The reserves.
Yeah.
All right. So, tell us about the fight between Barksdale and Willard. How does it go?
Well, it's a pretty hot affair, by all accounts. Willard will advance, supporting what's left of McGilvery's artillery.
Okay.
They were there initially trying to slow him down. They slowed him down long enough for Willard to get there. But they're not going to stop him
No.
without support.
Right.
Okay, so Willard's the initial support that comes up there. And the two regiments in line will advance, basically against Barksdale's center and left flank.
Okay. So the 17th and 13th Mississippi?
Yes.
Okay.
And they're in the swell. Okay, they're in Plum Run, Codori Thicket.
The Barksdale's men.
Yes.
Yes.
And some of them have emerged from it. They're starting to move forward. Barksdale's still mounted at this point, encouraging his men.
Of course.
Animating them there. And these two regiments will come, and they cause the Mississippians to halt and fire because here comes a whole new line of Union troops. 111th was started north to support, I think it was Thompson's battery. Then they're going to change direction and come in on the right of the brigade.
Yes.
They're going to essentially hit into the flank of Wilcox's Alabamians that are now coming forward
Right.
in echelon.
So that's a good. So we were talking. I forget who and where, but I was talking to somebody the other day. We were talking about the 1st Minnesota,
Okay.
and we brought up how they got a little help from Willard's brigade,
Yeah.
from the 111th New York.
Yeah.
Not to take away from the 1st Minnesota,
Not at all.
but they didn't single-handedly turn back Wilcox.
Well, the 8th Alabama is kind of separated from the rest and be taken on 111th and part of the.
And it looks like the 126 kind of refuses its flank a little
does,
to meet that
meet
threat.
that
Yeah.
That's why the 111th has to come up
Yeah.
to clear that.
So really, the 111th is coming up to help out Willard's brigade
Yes.
from the 8th Alabama threat.
Yeah.
But then they kind of just get into it with everybody. Is that kind of how it goes?
It almost looks like if you look at the way the brigades line up, that the Willard is actually hitting the hinge between the two. Mm-hmm. So he's actually flanking the Mississippi Brigade on their left and Willard's brigade on the right.
Right, because it looks like initially he's hitting the 13th and 17th Mississippi, but then eventually he's hitting the 13th, who's in the center,
Right.
and then the 18th Mississippi left.
Right.
And then there's that gap with the 8th Alabama kind of lagging behind.
Right.
Between Barksdale and Wilcox,
Right.
and that's the 111th New York is moving, as I'm looking here at
Moving
the
into that gap.
Lano map. Yeah, it's moving into that gap. Yeah,
Yeah, that's correct.
yeah, okay.
And the 39th is standing there.
Yeah, they're just
They
hanging
haven't
out.
gotten orders yet.
No, well, on the map I'm looking at, they're heading towards the 21st Mississippi and Watson's.
Eventually they will, yeah.
Yeah, but not yet. We're not there yet.
No.
Okay, so go ahead.
So they go in. There's some hand-to-hand fighting in the thicket.
Mm-hmm.
And of course Willard's men are well prepared for it. They already got fixed bayonets.
Perfect.
And they break in there, and then some of the Confederates begin to retreat at this point. They've been fighting for 3 hours.
Yes.
They're fairly well exhausted at this point. They're starting to pull back. Others are game. They're hanging in there. One account seems to suggest that both men of the 125th and 126th saw Barksdale mounted,
Okay.
and they fire on him. and this brings him down. They say he was riddled with bullets. Well, he was, but not from this volley. From what I understand, he was hit in the chest with one bullet.
From this volley.
Yeah, from this volley. Brings him down.
Right.
Okay. So
That'll do it.
And they charge over him. Okay. So
Okay.
When they pushing the Mississippians back, they'll charge over him.
So now he's separated from his men.
Yes.
Yes, the Yankees, he's behind their line now.
And a guy who's supposed to take command is Humphreys.
Right.
He's a Confederate Humphreys.
Right.
Colonel
Confederate. Yeah, okay.
121st Mississippi.
And
Where's he?
he's all the way down. He's detached down by Malbone Watson, which is like, according to this map here, a little southwest of the George Weichert farm.
Yes.
And these guys are a little northwest of the George Weichert farm.
Yeah, he's separated, and once again, he's that way because of artillery.
Right.
Once he overruns McGilvery's battery at the Trossel farm,
Mm-hmm.
Malbone Watson is there. Malbone Watson is the left of McGilvery's makeshift artillery line. He's got
Right.
4 guns, and his monument is misplaced. So don't go to the monument.
That's right. So yeah. So more specifically, he's on the Trossel farm lane, or he's south of it.
Yes.
And the 21st Mississippi is coming down there, so that's where he is on the map. Now, and the map has it on north where the monument is. Okay. So if you look at the Llano map and you all go to the monument, that is incorrect.
Right.
It was south of the road.
Yeah. The deal was they knew that he was to. I guess if you're looking from the Union perspective, to the right of the Trossel Lane, which would make it north of the Trossel Lane.
Right.
Okay. When the Battlefield Commission put in the roads, they put in a road to get the tours away from the Trossel house.
Yes.
And so that's U.S. Avenue.
Yeah.
And U.S. Avenue then goes and connects with Hancock.
Right.
Okay, so when they put the monument in, they thought that was the Trossel Lane. And so they put the monument north of U.S. Avenue.
Which is not the Trossel
Which
Lane.
wasn't there at the time of the battle.
Right.
Okay. If you go there and you go to the Trossel farm and you walk towards the Union position along U.S. Avenue, you'll see some high ground just to the right of U.S. Avenue, and that's where Malbone Watson's battery was actually placed.
Yeah, the horse trail.
Yeah,
It runs on
and the
that,
horse
right?
trail follows
The old
Trossel Lane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's yeah, right. So when you get to that point and you make that bend and start heading left, that will bring you to the north of the George Weichert farm. That is a park road. That portion of it is a park road. But the original, so most of that road, what is that? United States Avenue, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So most of that road, when you come off of the Emmitsburg Road,
Yes.
most of that is the Trossel farm lane
Yes.
until that bend.
Until the bend.
And then the bend is where it goes from the old lane to the new lane.
The old lane went right in front of the house.
Yeah.
It was right next to the house.
Okay.
Okay, if you go there, you can see where the limber chest is for Bigelow's monument.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And then there's a monument that sits right next to it on a rock.
Yeah. Yeah.
On the back of the the front of the monument, as you're driving by, it says, Monument on Culp's Hill.
Right.
They have to advertise there's monuments on Culp's Hill. No one will go there. You said.
Yeah.
And it's 150th New York's memorial. Mm-hmm. The front of the monument faced the original Trossel Lane, which they were using when they put the monument up.
So, okay, I see what you're saying. So yeah, right. So if you go there now, it looks like they were drunk when they placed everything because because it's not facing the road. You have to read it. You got to go to the other side. You got to get out of the car and go to the other side.
That's correct.
Originally, the lane went that way, and that's why they put the monument there. But they wanted to
The
get away
stone
from that.
wall was to the south of the road. Now it's to the north of the road.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. All right. So now we've cleared that up, ladies and gentlemen.
We have?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I don't know. I'm more confused than I was when I walked in here. So
It's a confusing battle.
it is. All right. So where did we leave off with the actual fighting?
We
then?
actually-
Barksdale's down.
Barksdale's down. His brigade's beginning to retreat. Okay, so Willard's men will follow. You know, Willard's animating them. He's a good commander, military experience. There, he's been in the Army since 1847. Mexican War experience type of thing. Regulars, U.S. regular at the beginning of the war. So he's pushing them.
Right.
Pushing them forward. As they move forward, of course, there's old E.P. Alexander. He's managed to get some guns up there on the Emmitsburg Road, and they're firing on him.
Uh-oh.
So they're starting to take significant artillery fire from the Emmitsburg Road.
Okay.
Furthermore, as they're moving forward, of course, they're passing there's nobody on their right. Remember, the 1st Minnesotas made their charge,
Right.
which was, somewhat successful from the point of view of gaining time and slowing down Wilcox.
Right.
But, 47 men aren't going to stop them. They're not going to give you flank support.
No.
Okay, and that's what's left. 215 men in 15 minutes. I mean, they're out.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And so there's this concern. There's nobody on our left. There's nobody on our right, and here we go. And so even Willard saw the wisdom of ordering his brigade to realign and then move back.
Okay.
Yeah. So
what happens to Willard?
as they're moving back, of course, they're taking more artillery fire all the time. They get into the swell. And on the east side of the swell, as they're moving, that's where he started to reform them. He's hit in the face with a shell fragment. Or there it is,
I meant to hit this.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Well, there you go.
Just as bad. Just as bad.
Well, don't you love the special effects in here, Mike? This is great. I wouldn't do this without special effects. I'll tell you that.
Sometimes I weep on the way home.
Oh, I know. It's a little tough, It's a little tough. But anyway,
My name is associated with what?
so he is hit the face and part of his head's carried away. Yeah, and he's still mounted. I mean, man's mounted. And he's conspicuous.
Because he's got no head.
Yeah, he's got no head now. And
Yeah.
he fell in front of the men. And of course, they ran over, and I believe it was Sherrill, who now takes command of the brigade, to order them in a blanket and get them out so the men don't see it.
Do you pronounce it Eliakim or Eliakim?
I never pronounce it.
E.
It's
Sherrill. Yeah.
It's E. Sherrill.
I don't blame you.
But which way would you pronounce it? Eliakim?
Well, I like Eliakim,
Okay, let's do
but
it
then
that
I've heard other people say Eliakim, and I was like, what? Or I don't. Have you heard of Mike?
Yeah.
What do you lean on?
Eliakim.
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 Yeah.
Eliakim.
I like him a lot, too.
I like.
Eliakim too.
Yeah, so we'll call him. We like him. Yeah.
So he gets hit in the head
Yes.
and stays mounted.
Not for long.
Well, no, but
Yeah,
that's what I'm
it was-
asking. Do they take him down, or does he fall down
I think
on
he
his own?
falls down.
Okay,
Yeah, most of
but
the
for a
concept-
while he's
He's on his
second
horse.
or two. He's
Well, even cut a chicken's head off for a few seconds, it still thinks it's alive.
sure, right?
Yeah.
So there's a headless horseman, basically,
If you want to use
at the
that term.
Battle of Gettysburg.
There you go.
I
It's
mean,
not the
that's
only
got to
one.
be creepy though
Yes.
to look and see a headless horseman.
Well, this is the guy you're relying on. You got to remember, Willard's brigade hasn't seen combat except the 120. What was it? I was getting confused. 126th at Harpers Ferry. Was it the
right.
126.
126? That's what I thought. The rest of them were in the town. Now the 39th New York has seen the valley. They fought in the valley.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so they're experienced.
So maybe we should go into that. What nickname does Willard's brigade come in here with?
Harpers Ferry coward.
There you go.
Because they show up to their first battle, and in all fairness to them, I mean,
Yeah.
they've been in the Army, less than a month.
Right.
They've had their guns for less than 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
They've not well drilled. They don't understand what the life of a soldier is. And they're thrown into Harpers Ferry.
Right.
Supposedly, maybe because they figured it's a fortress, it's a defensive position. Lee's not going to attack it. And all of a sudden, here comes Stonewall Jackson, 20,000 Confederates.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like Lee's not, but Jackson will.
And so the 126 gets up on Maryland Heights. It's key. If you've ever been to Harpers Ferry, you understand this.
Oh yeah.
It's the key to the place. And, they're up there with a few other regiments, but not enough to hold it. I mean, McLaw's division comes down on them. And the 126 does very well. I mean, they stopped the first attack by Kershaw's brigade, and then they fall back through a little bit of a wooded area to a semblance of a breastwork. Mm-hmm. And when the Confederates emerge from the woods, they stop them again. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, they're outflanked.
Right.
Barksdale comes around them, and it's game over for them. They tried to fall back. They were waiting for reinforcements to come, and they lose cohesion. Mm-hmm. If for no other reason, they're going down the hill. And if you've ever been to Maryland Heights, you know how broken it is.
Yeah.
You can't maintain a line
No.
there. And so and there was a lot of finger pointing. I mean, they go into a congressional committee almost immediately. It's one of the greatest military disasters in American history. The largest mass surrender of U.S. troops till Bataan. in World War II. Plus all the supply. I mean, 73 guns. Could the Confederates use artillery?
Oh, man.
Well, you got some. Okay. Supply, you got uniforms, you got ammunition. I mean, it was a supply depot for the armies in the Shenandoah Valley.
Well, I never understood why anybody ever thought that was a good place for an arsenal, a depot.
Transportation.
The river.
Yeah, well, that and the railroad comes through.
But it's so undefendable.
Well, you know who picked the site originally?
Who?
George Washington.
George Washington.
He picked the site because it's away from the British.
Okay.
And it's got you got the Potomac River.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
Well, I can see that in the earlier days.
Yeah.
But by the time of the Civil War, with the amount of troops, with the technological advancements in firearms, I don't understand why you would. But whatever.
Well,
the old habits die hard, I guess.
Well, if you want to
still
control,
pretty much. If you're talking in terms of like manufacturing capacity, you're still very much reliant on water power.
Yes.
Yeah.
To make everything run, and Harpers Ferry is an ideal location if you're
one
going
of the
to
first
run
industrial towns in America.
Perfect. Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Two arms manufacturers there.
That's why the Springfield Arsenal is located where it is.
Yeah.
Right.
on a
Right.
major river.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
I just don't know why anybody expected it could be defended and held.
If you hold Maryland Heights, you control Harpers Ferry.
I get it, but they didn't hold it.
6 miles.
Well, I mean, that
6 miles
requires
to
you
get
to like actually put somebody up there.
That's
to
right.
defend
Rather than
yeah.
a 3-week regiment,
Right.
with very little, no experience in combat and very little training.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make sense.
And that was in 62.
62.
So
September.
the Union has not yet gotten its head on straight, as far as I'm concerned, in 62.
No.
And the leadership is kind of all
They're all
over
learning.
the place. They're all learning, but they're also, a lot of them are political appointees.
Some
right?
are, sure enough.
Right.
Yes.
They're learning on the job.
Yeah,
But, it's 63 when they start to come into their own, at least the Army of the Potomac.
that's right.
Michael Lentz.
I have a question, and
Sure.
it goes back to the Harpers Ferry experience.
Okay.
Okay, so going back to the narrative of what happens to Willard at Gettysburg, and they have to get him under a blanket. Cheryl is influential on that.
Sure.
Making sure the men don't see him.
Right.
What happened to Cheryl, we're going to say Cheryl, on Maryland Heights during the siege of Harpers Ferry?
Yeah, he gets wounded. He shot through the cheeks, took out a few teeth, and
Oh,
it
those
paralyzed his tongue.
Yeah,
So
Paralyzed his
He
tongue.
can't talk.
yeah, lacerated his tongue.
Yeah, lacerated. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was part of the things that unnerved the 126th New York is this 3-week regiment saw their commander just get popped like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it certainly unnerved his tongue.
Shit. But I think it's there you go. But I think Cheryl's thinking that at Gettysburg. Here's Willard down,
Yeah.
Right.
and you don't want the men to see him because they'll lose heart.
Sure.
And so they cover him up in a blanket, get him out of there.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It
I
must
think
have
it's
been
a good
hard.
point, Mike. It's a very good point.
It must have been hard for Cheryl's men after the wounding, though, to understand anything that he was saying.
Yeah. Well, he
Right?
didn't. He
No.
couldn't command the regiment at that point.
Like it's just his tongue's in the way.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, it wasn't too much in the way, or wouldn't have happened.
Right. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So Harpers Ferry cowards, they're here.
Yes.
And is this their first chance at bat since?
First chance at redemption.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so we all agree that they did a pretty good job.
Yes.
Okay. So finish the story. Willard's down. Willard's dead. Cheryl's in charge. What happens to them next?
Well, Cheryl takes command, and they're there. Confederate artillery up on the heights. They're getting hammered, and the low ground. So basically, what he'll do is order the brigade to leave and return to their original position.
Okay.
Okay, so as they're marching off, here comes Hancock through the smoke. And, in no uncertain terms, who the hell's in charge? And that's calm compared to what most accounts of his. And
Yeah.
he finds out Cheryl ordered him off, and he immediately places them under arrest and turns the brigade over to the next command and orders them back. So they go back to the Codori Thicket, where later that evening they are indeed ordered back to where they were initially.
Initially.
Yeah, and eventually they release I like him, Cheryl, from arrest. So
Yeah.
he's commanding the brigade then on the 3rd. And just to continue the story, since we're on Cheryl, he's mortally wounded on the 3rd. So if you're looking at Willard's brigade, Hayes had them initially.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when they come back, when they're exchanged, they go into the Washington defenses.
Okay.
And Alexander Hayes, who is no, novice to combat, takes over the brigade and he whips them into shape. He drills. And so they're maybe one of the best drilled brigades in the whole Union Army when they come to Gettysburg. They're ready for this showdown.
Okay.
You know, they're ready for it. And then, of course, when they join the Army, when it is like June 26th, they join the Second Corps.
Okay.
They watch almost the whole Union Army march past them.
Right.
In the Washington defenses, and they're thinking, my God, you know, it's going to be a battle. Why can't we get in it? And then
When's it our turn?
Yeah, and then finally, maybe it's a certain well, you know, Meade needs troops. Lincoln's willing to give them some of the garrison of Washington to add, and some, you know, Baltimore, some of the train guards, B&O guards, the B&O Railroad, to beef them up. Why? Because he's between Lee and Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so adding those troops to his army is still defending the capital.
Right.
So they join up and they march, and hard marching. They're not used to it.
Right.
And they managed to keep up with the Second Corps. Then one day, what day was that? It was the day before. Was it June 29th or 30th? They did like a 33-mile march. And they said there was only a few men by the colors when they got, but not only was Willard's brigade thinned out by the march, so were some of the more veteran units.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
And then that night, they a lot of the men stragglers come in and
yeah.
start rejoining there. But that was their experience.
So they did they remain with the Army of the Potomac after the battle, or did they go back to the defenses?
No, they remain with them.
They remain.
Yeah. Now, the point to be made is once they join, French, who was the division commander, is sent to Harpers Ferry.
Right.
What a great place for him to go. And then Abercrombie, for one reason or another, didn't resign, but turned his command over and went to D.C.
Okay.
So who's the senior guy in the division? It's Hayes.
Hayes. Oh, yeah. Okay.
He's the brigade commander. Now he's the division commander.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So
and so that's when Willard moves up. So he only took brigade command just a couple days before the battle.
got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. So Willard wasn't with them when they were captured, is what you're saying?
Oh yeah, he was.
Oh, he was.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Relax,
he was.
Mike. Okay. Mike was ready to kill me.
I know. Yeah.
All right,
He
so
was a regimental commander. At that point.
So then, okay.
The
I got you.
125th New York.
Yeah, 125th. New York.
Got it. So he became the brigade commander later. That's the story you just told there.
Yes.
Okay. I lost you at some point, but now I'm with you. Okay. What happens to Cheryl? He's mortally wounded.
Yes.
When does he
dies
die?
on the 4th.
On the 4th.
Yes.
Where?
In the hospital there, the Second Corps Hospital, isn't it?
George Spangler Farm.
That's
Oh,
it.
the
Yeah,
George Spangler Farm,
Second
yeah.
Corps Hospital, yeah.
And isn't there something, or am I confusing people? Isn't there something with Hancock wanting to apologize to him for arresting him, and then
Yeah, I
somebody's
believe it
like,
was.
"You're a little late."
Yeah.
Do you remember that story?
Yeah, it was. So Alec Hayes visits Hancock after the battle, and Hancock's recovering. And Hancock then basically broaches the subject with Hayes, that colonel that I arrested. I would like to apologize to him because, I treated him badly, essentially is the idea. And Hayes' response is, it's like all your apologies, Hancock.
Yes.
It comes too late. That colonel is dead.
Yeah. Well,
right.
well done, Winnie boy.
Yes.
All right, so then that is the end of the fighting between Barksdale and what happens to Barksdale's brigade? They go back, and Barksdale obviously is not with them.
No. Humphreys will command the brigade.
Humphreys takes command of the brigade. Do they participate in any more fighting at
They're
Gettysburg?
supporting the artillery on
Okay.
Emmitsburg Road.
But in a defensive nature.
Yeah, and they have some skirmishers out
Okay.
in front of that position. But as far as major action, they're done.
Okay. What happens to Barksdale?
Well, Barksdale's buried in the Hummelball farm yard. Eventually, his body is recovered. Being a senator, he had friends in the North as well as the South. And the family got permission to get his body and then bring it back to bury it in Mississippi.
So how long did he linger for before he died?
A lot of controversy. Man, I think it's the members of the Vermont Brigade actually
Okay.
come out and they find him there. A couple of them try and take him off the field, but he's so injured internally
Right.
that it hurt him. So they went back and they got some more people. Remember, he's 240 pounds. He's dead weight.
Big guy. Yeah.
Yeah, they brought a blanket or a stretcher. They brought a stretcher out, and I think it's 6 guys carried him off the field and took him back to the Hummelball farm.
And so he has what? The ankle, the thigh, and the chest. Just those 3.
Yeah, as far as I know.
Right. Okay. And he goes to the Hummelbach farm, and he's there for what is it, Mike? A day or 2, or is it several
Dies
days?
that night.
It dies that night. Yeah, it's not.
Oh, it's that night.
Yeah.
Well,
that
yeah,
night.
yeah, it's into the early morning as well.
Okay.
Because there's comments about him saying, "Will you wait in the morning? Longstreet will be turning somersaults or whatever in your rear."
Got it. Yeah.
He's still, pretty defiant.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. And when he dies, doesn't like the hospital staff kind of do what the Romans did to Jesus on the cross there when he was gone, and they start divvying up his uniform and stuff?
Well, actually, there's some evidence that he may have been given a Mason burial
Yes.
on the field. So the Masons got around, and there's a story that they did take his body and give him the rites of a Mason funeral.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
If I'm ever dying, and I know there's Masons around, I'll just say my last words, I'm a Mason. And then hopefully get the Mason treatment, even though, like I'll make it look like I only had the strength to barely say that, and I couldn't say the proper, whatever you're supposed to say.
Right.
I'm the son of a dogless mother or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm starting to get hungry. All right, well, so let's take a break, and we'll come back with questions from our patrons. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, that's how you get to ask questions. You become a patron over at patreon.com/addressinggettysburg. We're going to do some commercials and hopefully eat some pizza, and then we will get to the questions. We'll be right back. Where are we? Here we are. Okay, are we ready, guys?
Sure.
Okay, let's do this. Okay, we are back now with this Ask a Guide about Willard's Brigade and Barksdale's Brigade. We just had a delicious pizza from Tommy's Pizza, and now none of
It
us
was
have.
adequate.
Okay. Bleep that. And then, now we're all too full to function, right?
That's right.
We're just
No,
sitting
All
here.
the blood's in the stomach.
That's right. So forgive us, folks, if we're a little too slow, and we'll try to pick it up for you. Don't forget, though, if you'd like to submit questions for our guides to answer and get exclusive content that take a closer look at all the things Gettysburg and Gettysburg related, please consider joining us on Patreon today. It's patreon.com/addressinggettysburg. Link should be in your description. Okay, Michael Wilson says, was Mississippi ready? Couldn't resist that one.
Absolutely. They were very ready.
He was more than ready, I think.
Yeah, they were, like I said, straining the leash to get going.
Yep.
They couldn't wait.
Now, we got someone here who's trying to compete with our buddy Mike 6 Questions Lentz here. I see on the list Mike has submitted his usual 6. Martin Husk, author of the
let's
book about the
go.
111th New York.
Come on, Martin, let's go.
Martin put in 7.
Oh.
Yeah, so 7 questions.
I mean-
Yeah, put that in your juice box and suck it. Right?
Your juice box.
Yeah, juice.
That's funny.
Yeah.
You got an Eric Zinger right
Oh,
there.
that was good.
Okay. All right, here we go. Martin Husk. Number 1. Where exactly on South Cemetery Ridge was Willard's line situated when the 125th and 126th New York regiments were ordered to advance into the Swale against Barksdale?
Okay, I think we alluded to that in the discussion. It's down by Father Corby, the Auxiliary State Memorial, and they're probably formed up where the artillery pieces are today.
Right.
So it's right there, kind of on the crest of the ridge.
That long line of guns.
Yes, that would be where the two 125th, 126 were. Yeah.
Where were Willard's regiments in relation to McGilvery's line of artillery? Well, we kind of just answered that. Official reports placed the 111th New York prior to the charge 200 yards to the right rear of the 126th New York.
Right.
Was that a typical distance for a regiment to support, in quotes, the flank of its brigade?
Probably it's a little long, usually about 100 yards maybe. But given the exigencies of the moment, probably wasn't a bad idea.
And I would imagine, do you think they were originally placed 200 yards behind, or were they placed maybe 100 yards behind, and then the brigade moved forward?
Well, the brigade moved forward, and they didn't advance originally with the other two regiments.
Right.
So
that would make the gap bigger.
This a little bigger. Yeah.
Most students of the battle know well the charge of the 1st Minnesota. But what was the impact on Wilcox's Alabama regiments when the 111th... Can you tell he wrote a book about the 111th New York?
Not at all. Not at all.
Not at all.
But what was the impact on Wilcox's Alabama regiments when the 111th New York finally joined the fight and took position on the right of Willard's line? Was the 111th able to take pressure off of the attack of the 1st Minnesota?
Yeah. In a sense, they distracted the right flank of Willard's brigade.
Right. Wilcox,
I'm sorry. Yeah, we're in Willard's
there.
brigade.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, of course, when the 1st Minnesota hits them now, they got a flank attack and a front attack. So that attack probably did more to convince them to withdraw than the 1st Minnesota.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Not that the 1st Minnesota didn't do very well for what they were intended to do, but they're hitting them frontally. It's a lot more unnerving when the enemy's on your flank and rear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I used to hate questions like these when I was in school. Describe the terrain over which Willard's regiments charged.
That's gently sloping from Cemetery Ridge to the Plum Run or the Codori Thicket. Once you get down there, it's a little bit rocky, and it's also congested with foliage. Short, stubby trees, that sort of thing, bushes, which you would find generally along any kind of a run or a creek in the region.
Right.
Yeah, so it was, it break the formations. They talked about when they charged into the thicket that the line became broken by the vegetation.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So then it goes down, and then once you get through the thicket, then it gradually ascends to the Emmitsburg Road.
Yes.
So it's
a valley.
It is. It's a gradual. It's not like trying to climb Big Round Top.
No.
Yeah. So it's a more gradual decline, and you're in the swell. Then you come out, and you're going up.
How green was my valley?
Oh, very. It had rained the day before.
All right. How close did Willard's line get to the Klingel farm? Did the 125th and 126th regiments advance further than the 111th? Oh, now he's got competition.
Yeah, they
here.
did.
Yeah.
I just want to be contrarian here. Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they did. They beat your regiment.
I think the 125th, 126th got about 400 yards beyond the thicket.
Right.
Okay. Now the 111th is veering off a little to the right at this point, and in fact, the Florida Brigade actually mentions about the Union. They saw Union troops behind them. That would be probably the 111th.
The 111th. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So they're going in a slightly different direction than the other two regiments.
Several of the men from the 111th who fell on July 2nd were buried in the fields south of the Codori farm. When would those burials have taken place, and about where were the graves located?
Okay, you'd have to get the Elliott map for that.
Yeah.
And he would have them marked. They would probably be buried after the battle. They wouldn't have time. I mean, that's kind of a no man's land
Right.
when they're out there. So I would suggest probably somewhere in the 8th, 7th, 8th, 9th is when they're burying the dead out in that area. Yeah.
All right, and Handy Hand 3. This is a new one by me. I haven't seen that one.
No, we've got questions from him before, but he failed to include his name this time. And so
you used his handle.
It's either unknown person or
Handy
Hand 3.
Okay.
I went with that.
All right, Handy Hand 3. I hope we're not giving away anything that'll get you found out by anybody, but here we go. Do you think Lee should have sent Pickett's division in on July 2nd to follow up Barksdale's success? I've heard a few historians say that is one of the least talked about what-ifs of the battle. Well, the Pickett's division wasn't here, though.
Well, Pickett was at Chambersburg when on the morning
Right.
of the 2nd. He's waiting for Imboden
Right.
to come up and relieve him. The reason you have to hold Chambersburg is that's where you're sending all your Christmas gifts. Mm-hmm. All the stuff you're collecting in Pennsylvania goes over there, and then it goes down into Virginia.
Right.
So you have to hold that area. Once he's relieved, then he marches to Gettysburg. And
When is he relieved?
sometime in there in the morning.
Okay.
So early morning, it's sunlight when the boat comes in.
Okay. So it's not.
You're looking like 7, 8 o'clock, perhaps.
Okay.
I'd have to check but anyway, Pickett is able to get beyond Cashtown by, let's say, 5 in the afternoon, but his men are exhausted.
Sure.
They made the march. Lee, he says, I got my men here. If you give me an hour or two, I can be ready. And Lee says, you won't be needed today. By the time Pickett would have gotten into position, let's say he arrives even at 4 o'clock, it's going to take him another couple hours or so to get into position at least.
Yeah.
So he would have been available perhaps late in the story. Certainly adding numbers would have added to the Confederate chance for success. I mean, the more numbers you have, the more successful
Sure.
you would be.
But then how would Lee have been able to do Pickett's charge if Pickett was wasted on the second?
Yeah, and I think Lee was holding him back simply for contingencies.
Yeah.
To me, the bigger what if of why didn't he use Anderson's division on July 1?
That's
And that's more discussed than, of course, Pickett on July 2nd. Pickett wanted to go in, obviously. He wants to lead his division in battle. And he was very disappointed that Lee says, no, we won't need you today.
Right.
Yeah. He was very disappointed when they needed him on July 3rd. So I guess you could say that the whole of Gettysburg experience to Pickett was disappointing.
Yes, it was not his best weekend.
Yeah.
Okay, Brian, I said it right. Thank you, Derenick.
Yes.
What effect did the maneuvering of the 21st Mississippi and their capture of portions of Bigelow's and Watson's batteries have on the overall success of Barksdale's charge, as opposed to if they had stayed in formation with the rest of the brigade?
Okay. One of the things you got to consider if they did, they're going to be taking flank artillery fire. Because if you look at the terrain, once they pass the Trossel farm, where Watson had his guns, was fire right down the thicket. So you almost have to go get them.
Right. You got to get the threat out of the way.
And while Barksdale's going essentially northeast, you have the 21st Mississippi essentially basically going east.
Right.
So they separate.
Yeah.
Certainly it aided the success of the charge, because when Barksdale's men hit the Sherfy farm, okay, they're from like the farmhouse to the barn, 21st hits the peach orchard. And they were able to clear the peach orchard, which, all of a sudden everything starts to collapse.
Right.
So I think in that case they added greatly to the success of the charge.
Right.
But they're not necessarily with the other 3 regiments when they meet Willard.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, we get to the star of the show. The master, the originator of multiple questions on one subject. I think you're the first listener to earn a nickname way back when in the early days of Patreon.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm going to allow you. Do you remember your questions? You have them right in front
I have them
of you?
right there in my
All right. Then I'm going to let you take over the show for a moment and ask Charlie yourself. Enjoy.
All right. Even though Martin Husk is coming for the crown, I have to... Yeah. His book on the 111th New York is just fantastic. Yeah. So I just got to give him props for that. He did a lot of great work with that regimental history. So if you want more about this particular topic, check out that book by Martin Husk.
And also check out the interview with him on, I believe, Patreon. I don't know if I put that out for free yet, so that's still on Patreon.
Yes, it is. So I have a question. I mean, we covered Barksdale a little bit.
Sure.
But go into George Lamb Willard. Who was George Lamb Willard? And give a little biography. What did he do before the war, and what did he do during the war?
Well, Willard, of course, wanted to join the Army when he got of age. His parents didn't want him to. He's born in New York, of course, and he goes to Ohio. They want him to learn the business trade. Along comes the Mexican War. He enlists, goes into the war with Mexico, serves with distinction. He rose to the rank of sergeant when the war was over. When the war is over, Winfield Scott, he stays in the Army, of course, as goes without saying, but Winfield Scott advocates his promotion to second lieutenant. So he's second lieutenant in the 8th U.S. Regulars, which is where he serves, after the Mexican War into the 1850s. By the time of the Civil War, he rose to captain So he's a captain in the regular army, which is no small feat, considering the regular army is very small and promotions are few and far between. When the war begins, a lot of regiments are being organized. A lot of the regular officers are giving up their commissions and taking over colonelcies of new regiments. He refuses to give up his rank in the regular army to serve in a volunteer regiment. And so he stayed with the regulars, fought in the peninsula, of course, as we know, and there. But then when Lincoln has to call for 300,000 volunteers because he thought the war was going to be over in the spring of 1862, you had the big Battle of Shiloh, Grant successful there, New Orleans has fallen, McClellan's 5 miles from Richmond, it looks like it's over. We don't need any more troops. And then all of a sudden Lee takes command and things change dramatically. So in August, there you have the emergency call for 2-3 year volunteers, whatever, even 9 months. Get anybody in there. And so at that point, in order to get experienced officers for these newly raised regiments, they waived the requirement that you had to give up your regular status, your regular Army rank, to be in the volunteers. And so he jumps on and organizes the 125th New York there and whips it into shape, serves with the unit at Harpers Ferry, where he surrenders with the rest of them. And then after that, of course, we know what he does here. He's a very fine commander. He was very well thought of by Alexander Hayes, who took that brigade before it was Willard's brigade, it was Hayes' brigade, and he whipped them into shape. And, of course, having an experienced officer of Willard's capabilities was an asset to Hayes.
And so coming off the Harpers Ferry experience,
yes,
those regiments that are brigaded together initially in the 22nd Corps in the defenses of Washington.
Right.
How important was it for them to have someone like Alexander Hayes be their brigade commander?
It made all the difference in the world because he transformed them. They were dejected. They were angry. Many of the men had said, what's the use? They'd given up. Some even went home. They walked out. So he brought them back. I think he made them proud to be soldiers again. He rekindled that flame to defend their country that they had lost after the surrender at Harpers Ferry. Drilled them constantly. Perhaps one of the best drilled regiments in the Union Army by the time they get to Gettysburg, much as Bigelow had done to the 9th Massachusetts. They were a green outfit, didn't know much about being artillerymen. He just kept drilling them. Boy, didn't that show when they had that moment in time at Gettysburg. Same with Willard's brigade. They would not have been a brigade they were had it not been for Hayes.
And so on July 2nd, when everything's falling apart on that part of the field,
yes,
they're calling for reinforcements. Hancock's calling for a brigade. Mm-hmm. Hayes turns to the brigade he used to command,
yes,
to a commander he thought highly of.
Yes.
And so talk about one of those circumstances in the battle that just turns on a dime because it's just the right person in the right place at the right time. What was the order that Hayes gave to Willard, supposedly, before sending him down to the, it's a phrase that he's connected with.
Oh, say go give the rebels hell or something?
Yeah.
Give them,
knock the hell out of the rebels.
That's it. Yeah, and he sent them in. And of course, Hancock asked for his finest brigade.
Yeah.
He said, send me your best brigade. And he didn't hesitate to send Willard. Didn't hesitate at all. Of course, he knew Willard's brigade. He trained him.
Absolutely. And so being newcomers to the brigade, did they have the corps insignia?
No, they did not. They hadn't had time to put it on. And this led to, Hancock didn't know who they were, as we were talking about earlier. He just didn't know, no corps badge. He knew the 1st Minnesota.
Absolutely.
But he didn't know who these guys were.
And it goes to Martin Husk's book as well. He talks about that with the 111th.
Yes.
Afterwards, Hancock is asked about, he details a regiment he doesn't know. Mm-hmm. He sends into the fight personally. Now, he would have recognized the 1st Minnesota.
Oh, absolutely.
But the 111th New York is new to the Army.
Yes.
And has no corps insignia.
And it's new to the corps, too, as well. Right?
Exactly. So Martin Husk and others point out that Hancock probably ordered this one regiment into the fight as well, besides the 1st Minnesota.
Yes.
Personally directed them in.
Yep. Yeah.
So turning to Barksdale's brigade, because we can talk about Willard all day long, and I would be happy to talk about Willard all day long. I think when coming look at the attack that was designed, was Wofford supposed to follow Barksdale?
I think in the general scheme of things, he was. You know, you're supposed to, the idea was that one brigade would go, then you would support them. So that the second rank was to support the first rank, and that didn't happen. You know, when Barksdale's men turn, Wofford's men, go right down the Wheatfield Road, and right through the wheat field, and then meet up with Eric's boys.
Pennsylvania Reserves.
The reserves.
Their date with the reserves.
There you go. Yeah. So when we asked more about, what if the 21st Mississippi, what would have contributed more to Barksdale's success? What would Wofford have contributed following in?
Right.
Because essentially you would have had this whole line of Confederates to back up what was a depleted group of Mississippians.
And that's more of a feasible what if than Pickett going in.
Yeah, I think so.
What if Wofford supported Barksdale
right.
as opposed to going into the Wheatfield fight?
And of course, the key ground, people forget this. The key ground isn't Little Round Top.
Oh, no.
Key ground's Cemetery Hill.
That's heresy.
Heresy. Yeah.
Well, turning our attention to the wanderers off the 21st Mississippi.
Sure.
I think one of the more interesting things is that they run over Bigelow's battery and then they run over Watson's battery.
Right.
Why did the 21st Mississippi not turn the cannons they had just captured onto the Union position?
Okay, when they overran Watson and then started to move a little beyond, they could see what's the 39th New York was there, smoke and confusion. But basically, a staff officer from Birney and Peebles, who's a second lieutenant, in Watson's battery, he could see them in the guns, and he wants somebody to, a regiment to get him out of there. And he teams up with Birney's staff, and they said, "Well, let's go." And they see the 39th. So it's one of my great. I like this story because they go up, and the staff officer, whose name escapes me at this moment, but anyway, he looks at Hugo Hildebrand, who is a failed German revolutionary. There's many of those in America. The revolutions of 1848. The Germans aren't very good at revolution. Okay, they're not like the French. French love it. But anyway, so he's standing there and he says, "In the name of General Birney, I order you to take your regiment and reclaim those guns." And Hildebrand looks at him very calmly. He says, "I'm not under Birney's command." And so the guy thinks for a minute. He says, "Well, whose command are you under?" He says, "General Hancock." He said, "Okay, in the name of General Hancock, I order you to take those guns." And Hildebrand orders men to form up and charge. You just got to know what button to push. And all of a sudden, that's the way the Germans are. I mean, they're very, very much on order.
Yeah.
And so he does, and they charge. Now, what at this point Humphrey's trying to do with the 21st Mississippi, they're turning the guns around, and they're trying to fire.
Okay.
But one of the things that Watson's men did when they left, they took the friction primers and the rammers. Okay, so it's like trying to fire a gun without a trigger.
So it didn't have time to spike it, but we'll take everything you need to fire.
We'll take everything else. We'll just carry it off. So there was no way they could have fired the guns. Now they might have been able to use the guns of Bigelow's battery because that was a slaughter. Yeah. And Watson's men saw the wisdom of leaving and they left.
Well, as far as I know, Bigelow's battery did the same thing. They
did.
And I think one of the guns was spiked.
Yeah.
They managed to spike one.
One was.
Yeah.
But one of those guns ends up on Stony Hill.
Okay. That's right.
And it's firing into McCandless's brigade on the 3rd.
Yeah, that's right.
And then that gets taken by like the 6th and 11th reserves.
Okay, so that was going to be my next question: is did the 21st take any of the cannons they captured?
No.
So.
Yeah, they left them.
No, they wouldn't have anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then of course you got the 12th Corps coming in.
Right.
Right on the heels of Willard, stymieing the Confederate attack, and then all of a sudden here comes Lockwood's brigade.
And who wants to try to drag a 2-ton piece of artillery by hand?
over
All
that
the way
ground.
back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Especially where they were. I mean, they're in the lowest part of the field.
Right.
You know, those dragons got uphill. Yeah, it's only 2 tons. Who can do it? Where's Barksdale when you need him?
Yeah, right.
Hook him up.
So
They didn't get a chance to. And they lost most of the guns they overrun. They even further up the line.
okay,
You know, with the Union assault coming so quickly on the heels of their success,
right.
they didn't have a chance to get a lot of the artillery off. What did Wright say? He said he overran 20 guns and had to leave them all behind.
Yeah, that's what. But he also said he went up a mountain overlooking a rocky gorge. So I mean, that's
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you had to walk up, it might seem like a lot. Yeah, so I know.
Good point.
So I think that's pretty much going to be it for me on that one.
All right, very good, Michael. Very
Thank you,
good.
Michael.
Great job.
Yeah,
Mike Lentz. You know what, Mike? When I finally start up that network I keep talking about, you're getting your own show.
there you go. The Mike Lynch.
The Mike Lentz Show.
Yes.
The Mike Lentz Happy Civil War Hour. Civil War Happy Hour. That's what it is.
Oh,
Mike Lentz,
my.
yeah.
That'd be at 4:00.
Yeah, exactly. All right, the last question is Nicholas Falter? Afalter? That's a new name by me. Welcome, Nicholas. I would like to know what happens to Willard's body after his death on July 2nd. Any interesting details?
Well, the one we already mentioned, that they cover him up real quick so the rest of the guys don't see him laying there. They put him in a blanket, take him back. And then he's eventually shipped home. Is it Troy? Troy, New York? Is that where he's buried?
Yeah, that's up there.
Yeah, they took him back home and buried him in this home cemetery.
Okay, so our listeners in Troy can go find him.
Yeah, that's your homework assignment.
There you go.
Well, I'm fine
And take a
with it.
picture and put it up on social media and let us know. Tag us
Oh,
in it.
hold on. I need to look that up. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Before we send you on a wild goose chase, Mike,
I think it's Troy. I really do.
Yeah.
I think it is Troy.
Mike's going to make sure, though.
I'm gonna make sure.
Let's
Yeah,
see.
I don't
You
want
don't want you to run around the wrong cemetery.
Exactly.
No.
People just wandering around with flashlights, going, "We're gonna find this guy."
What are you doing in the cemetery after hours?
I see some more ghost stories in the making.
Yeah.
Let's see. Sorry. Yes, it is Oakwood Cemetery in Troy, New York.
Oakwood Cemetery. There you go.
Yeah. Okay.
So there you go, folks. You can. Okay. Any other details though that you got?
No, that's about it. I mean, the most interesting details how he's killed. The cannonball hit him in the face, or shell fragment took off his face, and
Yeah.
his head. I mean, while he's still mounted, not in front of his men.
What a way to go.
Yeah.
What a way to go.
Quickly.
Yes. Yeah. And speaking of a way to go, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna go. That's all of our questions. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Charlie, thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Spending the
Enjoyed it.
whole day with us here, basically. It was a lot of fun, as always.
Thank you.
Mike, thank you for taking
you.
those few minutes off my hands there on the show. And it's nice. I got to catch up on some emails. And Eric, of course, thank you for all you do. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. And we will talk to you next time. Bye-bye.